Weekly. And this week's episode, we're going to be discussing a book called The Edge of Disaster. And I'm doing this forward to this episode basically because of the things that have changed over the last few weeks since I recorded the review of Edge of Disaster. And it really brings this book home and makes it more relevant today than it did just a couple weeks ago. And what I'm talking about is the terrorist attack at Manchester, London, what happened in Paris with the guy attacking officers with a hammer, and what happened in Iran today regarding the explosion that occurred over there, the terrorist attack from ISIS, and how we really are on the edge of disaster when it comes into terrorism and what the infrastructure is, how fragile we really can be. And as emergency managers and first responders, realizing that it could just take a small act that could really put us all into a response that we've never imagined and have not really practiced for. So that's why this book really becomes relevant as into Flynn's analysis of what's going on in the world back 2008 and how it's relevant, how this book is relevant in 2017 regarding the same issues that we talked about then. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the review. Hope you take time to go buy the book, or at least think about what this book is about and put some of the suggestions that Flynn has into action regarding terrorism and even just infrastructure and disaster response around the country. So enjoy, and thank you for listening to EM Weekly, and hope to hear from you. We're going to discuss the book that was written in 2008, or at least published in 2008, called The Edge of Disaster by Stephen Flynn. Even though the book is a little older, I really think that it still has some really good information there as emergency managers, disaster recovery type stuff that we can really get a lot of use out of. So the cool part about The Edge of Disaster, it's free of jargon, it's enriched in ideas in both terms of analyzing U.S. security problems and recommending solutions for them, and also regarding the infrastructure in the United States. So it really goes into some of these issues that, for lack of a better term, we struggle with for a long time. That's why I think this is still a good book to look at even these many years later. So Flynn argues that our top national priority must be ensure that our society and our infrastructure are resilient enough not to break under the strain of natural disasters or terrorist attacks. Right? So let's think about that, for instance. Our infrastructure is failing in some areas of the United States. A few years ago, we had that bridge that just collapsed out of nowhere. If you take a look at the roads in Los Angeles, you can tell that they're too narrow for the amount of traffic that we have, and it seems like we could never get in front of that here. I know the same issues in Houston, and there are other parts of the country where just the roads are just falling apart. So that's our infrastructure issues that we're going to discuss. So let's go back to the defense aspect of it first. So in the title of Flynn's 6th chapter, it captures the essence of his philosophy to radically shift the balance of effort between eradicating terrorism abroad and defending it against at home. So the best defense is the good defense. So Flynn notes the degree by which the Bush administration was treating the war on terrorism as an overseas campaign. And he does argue, however, that the war in Iraq is a poster child for terrorism recruitment. And I don't want to get political on this. It's just his ideas here. And now, years later, with the Obama administration that came in, and when we pulled out of Iraq, we saw ISIS come up. And now that's our biggest threat internationally is ISIS and some of the attacks that occurred here with the lone wolf. I don't have any solutions. Obviously, this is just kind of bringing it up here for discussion purposes. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too, if you want to reach out at the Ask Todd at emweekly.com and just kind of let me know what you think about that. But the reason why I think it's important to discuss is that we spend a lot of time and a lot of money on our anti-terrorism protection assets, right? I mean, the whole UASI monies that we spend specifically associated with a terrorism nexus is in the billions of dollars, right? I mean, all the equipment that we purchased over the years specifically had that terrorism nexus to it. So that's, I mean, realistically, this is what we're talking about here. And yeah, this is an emergency management function as well, right? I personally sat on the UASI board in Orange County, where we were doling out, or at least recommending we doled out X amount of monies for different programs. So, I have a working knowledge of what I'm talking about here. There's a balance between security investments at home and abroad, and a subject that has yet gained significant attention, right? So in the congressional budget processing, we keep cutting programs to localities, and I don't remember the exact numbers that we had, but there were more UASI cities, and every year they keep getting cut, and the budget keeps getting cut. I remember at one point, just right after 9/11, that it seemed like we'd never run out of security monies, and now it seems like we're struggling again, and hardening these targets. Maybe it is that we've exhausted everything that we can do at the local level regarding hardening facilities, but we're starting to see the softer targets getting hit around the world and in the United States, such as the Pulse nightclub, malls are targets. We have these the festivals that are occurring in Germany and France, where they attacked street fairs and festivals, and things like that could happen here in the United States as well. So what does that mean exactly? And I think that if you take a look at Flynn's recommendations from back in 2008, you see that he really, although some of the players may have changed, the tactics haven't. And so the idea here is doing a proper balance between the United States efforts, specifically in this book, abroad, and the United States efforts here at home. For those of you that are listening globally, I would say the same thing, that there's I don't have a working knowledge specifically of the efforts of anti-terrorism programs in, say, Australia, but what is the balance between the homeland security, for lack of a better term, and the efforts to keep secure at home? So he goes into a little bit of Afghanistan in this book, and in this particular podcast, I don't really want to focus on those issues, not because they're not there, just because I want to really talk about how in emergency management specifically and at home we can deal with things. Let's talk a little bit about his other area, the infrastructure and national resilience. This is one of the reasons why The Edge of Disaster is a must-read. Flynn's analysis of the brittleness of the U.S. infrastructure ranks at the top. So he makes a very persuasive and indeed frightening case after decades of underinvestment in U.S. critical infrastructure that is so vulnerable that it constitutes a threat to national security. So some problems that he addresses are relatively well known, including the U.S. power grid. And I'll tell you, from personal experience, we had a power outage here in SoCal, and I was talking to one of the people from the power company, and he said that they were just one central station away from losing the entire western seaboard. And if you remember what happened with the Canadian issue, where they lost the eastern seaboard. So I mean, these things are known. It's not like they're top secret, and no one knows about them. We know that our power grid is very vulnerable. So we have to really take a look at that. Also our bridges. We have a bridge here in Long Beach, California, that is being worked on right now. So there is money being put into it, but the bridge literally is falling apart. They have steel mesh net to catch the chunks of the bridge that are falling into the waterway underneath it, and they've been hitting the cargo ships that are going underneath it. So it's amazing. The answer, the short-term answer, is putting a steel mesh grid net basically to catch these pieces of brick, right? So the puzzle here lies in how to build support for infrastructure and how do we get it going. I mean, the odd part about it is here in California, we're putting money into this high-speed rail that's never been built yet. I mean, billions of dollars are going to go into this thing. It's going to really focus on a small group of people that would be taking this train. And I'm not against public transportation by any means. As a matter of fact, I'm really a big proponent of it. I'm from back east, and I grew up taking public transportation, so I think it's a good thing. However, is that the right place to be putting our monies into right now? Okay, so that's just the question I pose. Again, I don't have the answer. I'm not going to tell you, right or wrong, or where we should put the money necessarily in this discussion. I'd like to hear from you guys, what you guys think about it, again, in the comment section. If you take a look back with Dwight D. Eisenhower, he created the infrastructure. I shouldn't say he did, but his administration created the national infrastructure because he felt that it was essential to national security. And he argued that the interstate system would provide enormous economic benefits, especially in the rural areas. So, for Flynn, he thinks Eisenhower's strategy provided a model to show support can be built for this resilience funding. And I haven't seen it. This is 2008, remember? And it's over 2 administrations, we still haven't gotten the infrastructure monies that we need. And yes, you can see if you live in LA, you can see a lot of money that's being spent on the 405, but these are widening projects, right? But there are still roads throughout the country that are falling apart, literally. All right, so we're talking about $300 billion a year that we would need just to maintain what we have, not to increase what we have. So that's a lot of money being spent just to maintain, but there's more that's needed to be done. And again, I'm not going to tell you what kind of money should we be spending, and again, budget is always the big deal, right? I mean, as emergency managers, we become the number one fundraiser, right, for our own programs. And this money here that we're talking about would be probably taken away from our programs to go into infrastructure. But however, without infrastructure, how do we respond to emergencies and disasters around our local areas, let alone internationally? So I really think that this book here really is a good primer for discussion. And I really think anybody who is in government should really read this book, specifically because it has like a lot of real good details regarding the monies that need to be spent. And again, we might have to adjust some of this stuff specifically for where we are with inflation. I mean, I know it was only, 10 years ago or so, but still, 10 years is a lot of time when we talk about money. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. As far as this book, I highly recommend The Edge of Disaster. If you haven't read it, do so. If you have read it, really, please let me know how you feel. Like I said, this is a community, so I really want to hear what your opinion is on this book. I liked it. I read it. Matter of fact, I recommend this as one of my recommended reading for my students at the university and also at the community college. So, let me know. So again, thank you so much for listening to EM Weekly, and I look forward to our next discussion.
315 and 314, there is at least one person that's been shot. Somebody is still shooting inside.
453, I have a party shot here. I need rescue hot.
Are you ready for the unthinkable? Call our friends at High Speed TACMed. They provide custom emergency planning and training that saves lives. With years of experience in law enforcement, search and rescue, responding to and managing large-scale incidents, HSTM will evaluate and prepare written plans, training sessions, drills, and debriefs, leaving you with the necessary tools and experience that can save lives. Call HSTM today to discuss your specific needs, and the staff of High Speed TACMed will help ensure that you're ready and are in complete compliance. Call High Speed TACMed today, 805-419-0024. Again, that's 805-419-0024. The friendly staff at HSTM is standing by.
Bringing out bodies now. Get someone to the back as soon as you can. Rescue personnel, I got at least 3 to 7 hits.
Emergencies happen. whether they're related to medical emergencies, threats of physical violence, weather-related, or other. One of the most difficult things during an emergency is to find help and quickly and efficiently communicate with all parties, regardless of whether you're an administrator, law enforcement, or the end user. With Titan HST, we help to store time by creating high-tech yet simple-to-use mobile-based applications that connect you with the people who can help you. At Titan HST, we believe in the power of people.
Hi, this is Todd DeVoe, the host of EM Weekly's podcast. If you're trying to reach people in the emergency management and response space, EM Weekly is a place for you to advertise. Each week, we are bringing in guests from around the world to talk about best practices and trends in emergency management and response. We also have the blog on EM Weekly's website and the EM Quarterly e-magazine. For more information, please email Brian at emweekly.com. EM Weekly is a division of the WEMT Institute.